Hey folks, thanks for watching my monologue. I'd like to encourage you to visit Guns Etc. They're strong supporters of our president and the principles our country was founded upon. Guns Etc. is 10,200 square feet and it's a firearm lover's paradise. And for all your online firearms needs, just click on gunsetc.com. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks. Welcome back. March 11th, 2020. Bernie Sanders gave a live press statement today announcing he'll be staying in the race and looking forward to debating Joe Biden this weekend in Phoenix. I'm looking forward to that too. But Bernie started by saying this, quote, "We have a president today who is a pathological liar and who is running a corrupt administration. He clearly does not understand the Constitution of the United States and thinks that he is a president who is above the law. In my view, he is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot, and he must be defeated, and I will do everything in my power to make that happen." Close quote. I've heard variations of this and haven't heard the full fusillade, and it is a shocking thing to hear when put all together. Yes, we've heard basket of deplorables from Hillary, in which she also said Trump supporters are racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. When you put that together from 2016 and what Bernie said today, can we ask, how is this okay? Sure, Republicans for years have been called variants of all these things by the media. And yes, some campaign ads have been over the top, particularly against Goldwater, Reagan, and George W. Bush. But have you heard a candidate say these kinds of things about an opponent all at once? All while we keep hearing that the tone in Washington or in our politics needs to be toned down. Whenever you hear that, just know it's a lie. It needs to be toned down if you're a Republican or a conservative. That's what they mean. But if you want to freely call Republicans and conservatives racist, sexist, homophobes, xenophobes, and religious bigots, let her rip. Fair game. Nothing new to see or listen to hear. And nobody ever questions any of this. How is Donald Trump a racist? Does he studiously and deliberately exclude minorities from his employ? I don't know. Ask his Surgeon General or Secretary of Housing and Urban Development or Secretary of Transportation or any of the multiple black activists he has welcomed to the White House numerous times, or Kanye West. Is he a sexist? I don't know. Ask his daughter or Secretary of Education or former ambassador to the UN or current director of the CIA. Is he a homophobe? I don't know. Ask the first openly gay member of a presidential cabinet, who happens to be Donald Trump's appointment. Is he a religious bigot? I don't know. Ask his children and grandchildren, Orthodox Jews. But nobody ever does. They just think conservative, and you can throw and attach and label and libel any way you want, because deep down they all kind of think just that about us, don't they? And we're the farthest thing from it. Meantime, Bernie has no problem having anti-Semites and haters of homosexual imams and haters of religious Christians speaking for and stumping for him at his campaign rallies. But because they are lefties and Democrats, I guess it's all okay. Folks, this is gutter politics. And I don't care if you're a liberal or a conservative, a Democrat or a Republican, a lefty or a righty. It's just wrong. And until Joe Biden, Mr. Bring Decency Back to Politics, says something about it, or Bernie apologizes, or the mainstream media pressures him on this, or calls him out and condemns him, I cannot think or say we have journalism in this country. We have yellow and gutter journalism. And we have gutter and yellow-bellied Democrats running for office, too afraid to stand for principle because they are too interested in gaining power at any cost. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Meantime, have you seen a Trump rally? Where's the racism? Where's the bigotry? I'll tell you what there is: soul, which is in part why right now I'm having no patience with quiet Republicans or distant Republicans or never Trump Republicans. In fact, right now I want George W. Bush to step up. Show some favor and return to the party that gave you your presidency, the favor it did you. George W. Bush has gone on record saying he may be the last Republican president. What does that say to you millions who voted for him and Donald Trump? George W. Bush said, "Wow, this guy doesn't know how to be president." and he didn't vote for Donald Trump. Under President Trump, our rate of economic growth has doubled. George W. Bush should be delighted with this result. George Bush should be equally delighted with Black and Hispanic employment numbers. Then there's foreign policy. President Trump is standing up to Russia and China as well. He has rejected Barack Obama's absurd dream of an alliance with Iran's mullahs. He is completing the destruction of ISIS. He is staunchly pro-Israel. To what in this litany does W object? Nothing, I assume. Then we have the voters. Gallup reports that 90% of Republicans approve of President Trump's performance. Other surveys have placed the number even higher, higher than W's own approval among Republican voters through most of his time as president. So in what sense is Trump not a real Republican or president? In this sense, I think George W. Bush was basically a good president. I give him a B- rating when his second term ended. But he had one great failing. He didn't fight back against the Democratic Party's continuous assaults on his administration. He was Bush Hitler. Remember that? We haven't forgotten. Has he? So maybe just now, all those hiding under cover and relaxing with a terrible case of moral superiority ought to put their own vanity and taste second to the interests of the country. I borrow from William Bennett when I say that. But if they can't bring themselves to do that, then at least start taking on Biden and Bernie for their outrageous remarks about your president and supporters. If you care about this country, that is what you will do. You told us you cared once and asked the people who support Trump to support you not so long ago. And they did, even as they had their disagreements with you. It's not about the party. It's about the country. And now is not, as Margaret Thatcher once warned and worried about George H.W. Bush, the time to go wobbly. This stuff really does anger me. It angers me because, unlike the Democrats with the loudest of megaphones, I really do give a damn and hate racism and bigotry and homophobia and the rest. I really do. I don't use those terms as political wedge issues the way the Democrats do. I call it out when I see it, regardless of party or affiliation. Won't tolerate it. Never did. That's how I grew up. And that's why it was good for Democrats once upon a time to try and distance themselves from the likes of George C. Wallace. They don't do that anymore. They see Republicans, they see conservatives, and they see racism and bigotry. For reasons I cannot understand, except a failure to think and a failure to hew to universal standards of moral and linguistic truth. You want racism and bigotry and homophobia and sexism? You can find it. You can find it in the very regimes Donald Trump has taken on. You can find it in China, and it's not hard to find. You can find it in Iran, and it's not hard to find. You can find it in the Palestinian territories, and it's not hard to find. You can find it in ISIS. You can find it in Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. You can find it in Qasem Soleimani, and it isn't hard to find. You can find it in the lead spokesman for Bernie Sanders, and it isn't hard to find. You can find it in Ted Kennedy, Bill Clinton, and Harvey Weinstein, and Roman Polanski. But you find Hollywood and the left having made heroes of them all while attacking Donald Trump. A failure to think and a failure to hew to universal standards of moral and linguistic truth is what is at play here indeed. I've been quoting Tom Wolfe a lot lately, and I'd like to paraphrase him in my closing here, given all of the above, given the times. The liberals and the left of the next several decades, snug and smug in their self-satisfied and self-defined virtue, they'll gaze back with a ghastly awe upon our time. They will regard it as a time in which their forebears had the amazing confidence, the Promethean hubris, to defy all reason and to push man's power and freedom to limitless, godlike, redefining extremes. They will look back in awe without the slightest temptation to wonder what they did to the decent and the moral. And so too will the silent Republicans, the silent conservatives. What is it they've forgotten? I think they've forgotten something Ronald Reagan reminded us of. He said, quote, "If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here, in this land, we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than it ever had been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price." Close quote. That was in his first inaugural. Somehow, yet slowly, we've allowed and tolerated and too casually dismissed as non-threatening, alien concepts. Concepts that hate and despise all of that hate the freedom and dignity of the individual, and replaced it with the import of the freedom and power of the government and state. Concepts that don't brook debate or reason, but rather a priori assumptions, conclusions in the name of something that has never existed, but has sure been tried from time to time: utopia. Why? Because of noxious theories and concepts about the role of soul and man, the refusal to stand up for natural right, and a lemming-like immaturity that refuses to stand up for itself, that thinks, because America, bad. It's been coming. It's been brewing for some time. To paraphrase Victor Hugo, a cloud has been collecting for many years, and it's bursting, but we cannot condemn the thunderclap. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.